Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly, and we're back with another Central Virginia fishing report with Ethan Martin at TaleTellers Fly Shop. How you doing, Ethan?
I'm doing great today. How you doing?
Oh, as always, just trying to stay out of trouble, and it's kind of nifty. We had to work around your schedule because you're getting ready to get out on the water.
Yeah, I try when I can, and everything got shifted last minute, like I was telling you. But we fished, or my dad and I, we fished Monday, and then we were like, yeah, well, heck, we'll fish again Wednesday. So originally we were going to go guide trip with Matt Miles, but everything's been shifted because we've had a little bit of rain on one of our local fisheries that we were going to go on. And so that's part of the joys of like this time of year is, especially if you have, guide trip lined up, is you're always at the mercies of the rain or flows or fishing conditions, especially with our traveling fish species. That's one of the things I don't think I really was aware like 5 to 6 years ago, just how many species we have like that in Virginia between the white bass that we have, the striper, shad, all that stuff. It's pretty cool. It's a diverse and different fishery this time of year. So the reason that our trip got canceled, though, is because the cold snap we had in February pushed the water temps just enough askew to where their shad didn't run in the numbers that they usually do on one of the streams that we were going to go fish. So it'll probably be, another week that they're delayed. And then the same thing with our white bass that are here local. Like last year at this time, it was almost done with the white bass run, but here it just basically started on I guess Friday of last week, where people caught them in good numbers, but now the river's been raised to not an unfishable level, but at a level where it's kind of like, what's the point? Go do something else,
Yeah, absolutely. But the good news is, we were talking before we started recording, you got popped with the kind of the cold air that came with that winter system that ripped through the Midwest and the Northern Rockies. And so we took a couple steps back, but the good news is, after maybe today, tomorrow, that warming trend is going to continue and those lows are going to only be down in like the mid or upper 40s.
Yeah, and that's been another good thing. So the fishing now on the trout side of things, and even smallmouth, and well, I guess even muskie, I'll throw that in there too. It has definitely been trending up as the water temperature has gone up. So for people that ask, the James right now, as of yesterday, the main branch of it was right around 50 degrees, like 49.6 to 50.8 was the main like temperature reading we were getting off the boat. And then our smaller streams have all been like 48 degrees to 49 degrees, depending on the time of day. So everything is definitely trending up, which means that we're leading to different fish that are thinking about spawning, more insect activity as well. So it's an exciting time. It's kind of like when spring is almost there, not quite, but like just on the cusp of a lot of cool activity, just in wildlife in general.
Yeah. So does that mean you haven't quite started to see quill gordons and march browns and things like that?
Yeah, we actually have. So we started getting some marsh brown hatching and quills, quill gordons as well, about almost 2 weeks ago now. Now I've been thinking back on it. So it was probably right after the time that we did our last podcast that they started hatching lower down. So on our brook trout streams, you've got two sort of sections to a lot of those streams, which is the lower gradient and then the higher gradient. So the higher the stream is, those ones typically, I haven't seen the hatches quite as early as we do on the lower gradient, which is usually just revolving around water temperature, I'd assume. And then also those lower gradients typically get a little bit more sunlight, which leads to, whatever it is that causes the insects to hatch, if that's moon phase or whatever. But so all I have to say is, like, if somebody's going out this weekend, one of the things we did really well on last week was March Brown dry fly, or even just a Parachute Adams dry fly in bigger sizes. So like a size 10 to size 14, and then floating off the back of that a nymph. So maybe like a pheasant tail nymph, or if you tie up like a March Brown style nymph. We've done really well on those the past week. We caught some pretty nice brook trout on one of our local places, and it was. I mean, we had probably one of the better days that I've had the past like year and a half, really, in terms of size of fish. The quantity, I think we ended up, me and the other guy I was with, who's Braden from the shop here, I think we ended up catching about 10 fish total for the day, which is not crazy numbers by any means, but I mean, a lot of those fish were over 8 inches, which I was like, holy smokes, which is the benefit of, when you're fishing the early hatches. It's a big meal. March Brown's easy to see, for the angler and for the fish. So we've had pretty good, success, getting out there right now. So I would definitely encourage people to do that. Because our small streams are fishing, well, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were talking about pre-spawn activity earlier in the fishing report, and we have a question from Matt McGraw, and he wanted to get your thoughts on how to locate pre-spawn smallmouth on smaller rivers like the Maury or the Jackson or the Ravenna.
Yeah, so focusing on, honestly, the smaller rivers and the big rivers, they're going to have some similarity between them. And typically throughout the winter, the bass are going to be in deeper water. So as that water temperature rises, you will find them moving out of that deep water, but they're still going to be in holding water. So it's kind of like you're looking for this mid zone of, it's not like crazy fast moving water, but there is slight current to it, and maybe it dips down an extra 3 foot than the other segments of the river. So like yesterday, where we caught all the bass that we were fishing was in water that wasn't, it wasn't 20 foot deep. We had the fish binder on, so I know the depth that we were at. The depth we were at on the James was like 8 foot, and that's where those bass were at. They weren't 20 foot. They weren't 3 foot. It was all in that like mid-level, as they're going to eventually, here in the next couple weeks, go out onto the spawning beds and then, start to spawn. So we're kind of at that precursor stage where, in all reality, on a lot of the smaller rivers, they're going to be holding in the similar style water a lot of the year, than what they would do on the James. So it's one of those weird things. It's like, yes, the James and the Maury and, a lot of our smaller, like we'd say medium-sized smallmouth streams are going to, in essence, the smallmouth are the same fish, but good holding water is good holding water. And if a smallmouth can be there in the summer and have ample security, and he can have ample food floating past him and still be in proximity to the shallows where he's going to be hunting and or mating in the spring, then he's going to be there. It could even be year round. Like, for example, some of the fish that we caught yesterday, I think by now I've caught fish at that spot in almost every season. But we did have more success in that sort of mid-range level. So like more of those fish that we visually saw from the boat as we spooked them or ones that we actually caught. So that's where I would focus on the medium-sized rivers, would be in water that's not like crazy, crazy deep and crazy, crazy slow, has like slight current to it, but it's not raging fast, because the fish are going to be eating. They're definitely going to be putting on the feed bag here soon. The main thing is just going to be that your fly is down deep enough, because if you've got something, for example, if you're throwing like a topwater fly, you might as well just not be fishing right now. There might be one bass in all of Virginia that would eat that thing, and somebody will probably catch it. But the reality is that those fish are going to be just glued to the bottom of the river and for most of the day. And then you are just going to be dredging a crayfish pattern, or a critter mite, something like that down there. One of the flies that we used here the past couple weeks has been like, it's basically just a jig. If you take a conventional jig, you turn that into a fly, and there you have it. Just a fly that's really heavy, is going to stay on the bottom, and it's in that like 3-ish inch range that a lot of our bass here like. that's what we've caught fish on. So that's what I'd tell you to do more than anything. I know that's a lot of stuff, but
yeah, but it's one of those complicated times of year where, the fish are moving, they're not super active. So, and it can be really pretty variable. So
yeah, it's like a season within a season in a way, because you've got like this transition time. And so that's the hardest part, I think, is defining the transitions, because wintertime is easy. You can say they're just going to be deep and they're going to be super glued to the bottom. Springtime, you can say they're going to be sitting on spawn beds. But as you get into this transition, there's just a lot of guesswork that really boils down to experience / luck, because each day is different. You could have an overcast day when, with water temperatures, basically like what we had yesterday, which for the majority of our day was an overcast day. And those fish would respond differently than if it had been a bright sunny day, and, the warmth that they're getting from the sun might cause them to do something different, either move out of the deeper water into the shallows where they can warm up a bit, or maybe hunt more, or they might even push back into the shade because they don't like the bright sun. So there's just so many variables that happen during a transition time that I think realistically you can give it your best shot, which would be fishing that mid-zone water column, or not water column, but depth, with a fly that's going to stay on the bottom of the river, and give it all you can. And once you find a fish, keep fishing that area, because usually, like yesterday, when we found one fish, we would find more that were in that general same hole. So yeah, it's just, you learn those places, keep fishing the same places, and then next year repeat and do it again.
Yeah, there you go. And, folks, we love questions on the articulate fly. You can email them to us or send them to us on our Facebook, our Instagram page. If we use your question, I'll send you some articulate fly swag, and we will enter you in a drawing for something cool from the shop at the end of the season. And before I let you roll out the door and go on your fishing trip, Ethan, why don't you let folks know where to find the shop hours, and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, so the shop's physical location is in downtown Lynchburg. Right now we're on Commerce Street. It's cool. We've got pretty much everything that we sell here can be found online. So if you can't make it to downtown, or you don't want to make it down, then you can find pretty much everything that we offer online. And then, if you have questions about a product or an area, or, whatever that may be, you can email us. There's a contact form on our website. You can call the shop. Again, there's shop phone numbers on the website, or Instagram. Instagram is honestly one of the most popular ways that I've gotten in contact with people, because it's basically just like texting. So our Instagram name is TaleTellers VA, like Virginia. So yeah, a lot of different ways you can get in contact, and it is a really good time to be getting into fly fishing, because everything is only going to get better. So you can kind of get some of those crappy days where you don't know what you're doing out of the way, while the fishing is going to get better here in another month or two.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, folks. You owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Ethan.
Tight lines.